Men's basketball got eviscerated by Iowa State. We're going to go into exactly what this means for the future of the program. Plus, Chamon Metayer left. There's a hole. We're going to talk about who might replace that in the tight end room right now.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Sun Devils, your daily Arizona State Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Phil Mulford. We got Parker Porrill right over there. Thank you so much for joining us today and every day and making Locked On Sun Devils part of your morning, because there's always something happening and it's a great time. Parker is the GM of Blaze Radio. Plus, he does a lot of play-by-play stuff. I love the Sun Devils, which makes it really hard for this first segment. ASU Sun Devils men's basketball get blown out by Iowa State, but don't worry, football's coming up soon. We're going to talk about that. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Parker, I love records. Records are great. I love setting records, except when it is the biggest deficit that has ever happened in the Big 12 tournament, and we're on the losing side of it.
Yeah, I mean, a game was played today. Can't say for a matter of fact that both teams gave it their full effort, but one thing's for certain, and that is that this is a almost poetic end to this, to what might be the end of the Bobby Hurley era. There's all these rumors floating around. We'll see in the coming hours, but in the past, 2 out of the last 3 games, you've played Iowa State, and you lost by a combined 70 points to the same team. And one of them was a 21-point loss, doing some quick math, a 49-point loss in Kansas City to the Cyclones. And I asked you a question before the show started, Phil, and that was, when you get your butt whooped, how much of it is on you and how much of it is on how good the other team is? And you said, you had a very good point. Iowa State is not 50 points better than this Arizona State team.
Hell, I mean, we went and we were up 3 of them at the half in the Hilton Center, right? In the Hilton Coliseum or whatever it's called, on senior nights. And we're up 3 at the half, and ASU's firing on all the cylinders. We're shooting 60% from the field. And then the next 3 halves of basketball are some of the worst basketball I've ever seen in my life. Like, yeah. I do not want to. I mean, look, these players, they've played their hearts out this year. I'm not trying to denigrate them, but when you have more turnovers, when you give up more turnovers in a half, then you score points in a half, something is going wrong. That's not an effort question. I mean, yes, it was very clear that at the end, by pretty quickly into this game, ASU had kind of given up. But that's not a points, like, that is not a effort problem right there. That is a coaching problem, and that is a scheming problem. If you watch this game, ASU was starting their basketball behind the half, or they were starting their offense behind the half court line because Iowa State's defense was so oppressive. That's a scheming problem. All right, Bobby Hurley or whoever's drawing up the plays there had to have something prepared for that. And it just, more turnovers than points through the first 10 minutes is insane.
Yeah, and we thought the story going into this game would be how ASU would stop Iowa State defensively. Well, it turned the other way around, because how does Jop and Mo Odum only combine for 10 points? Wait, 10 points of the 42 scored.
The important question here, how does Odum only have 2 points when he fouls out?
Yeah.
He fouled out of that game, by the way. I don't think he's fouled out. I should have checked this before the show. I don't think he's fouled out this year in any game.
He only played 30 minutes. Only played 30 minutes. He's never done that. Lowest minutes total.
Plus, flagrant foul by Jackson. I think Jop got it. We had 2 technicals, one on Jop for responding, one on Hurley for being Hurley. And look, I am so frustrated right now, and I think you are too, because we've seen what the Sun Devils can. We've seen what Jackson, we've seen what, Johnson, we've seen what Pig Johnson and Odum and Jop can do in big games this year. Look, Kansas, Texas Tech, even first half against Iowa State. And then it just disappears. It all goes away. Even in the Baylor game, I mean, their season was on the line. They played that game, even if it was a little bit sloppy at the end. They played it so much better than they had in the regular season. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, great. We might not beat Iowa State, but I think it's going to be competitive.
Yeah, I agree. That there's few words that can express what's going on, but to just nail at the point on how atrocious this game was, 5% from beyond the arc. Garabovich had the only 3-pointer, 1 for 19. But to like shed some light and shout out a Sun Devil that had a good game, Santiago Truitt. Yes, I know 2 for 6 from the field, but he played ASU's game. He got to the free throw line 10 times. There was only one other Sun Devil to go to the free throw line in this game, and it was Alan Mukeba. ASU only went to the line 12 times, and 9 of the 11 makes that ASU had was Santiago Truitt. I mean, shout out to Truitt leading the way. He's kind of he's been a starter for the Sun Devils for a majority of the season, but he's more so done his role, filled in the gaps, shined in the moments when he's allowed to shine. But he was the main offensive force in this game, and he led the Sun Devils with 13 points, which is not a low scoring total, and it makes sense because the scoring total for the Sun Devils was an abysmal 42.
Yeah, you talk about 5% from beyond the arc here, Parker. You know what? You know what's an even more depressing stat? 0%. Because that was the first half. Man, I made the mistake of looking at a live thread about this game on the college basketball subreddit, and the Arizona fans were having a field day, posting screenshots, calling out the bad stats, which is fair enough. It was miserable. I really wanted to turn it off. I couldn't because we had to go talk. We had to be prepared to talk about this at the end of the day. But Parker, more generally, what a fitting ending, right? I hate this. This is not fun. It is not a fun time to be a Sun Devil basketball fan today. But as we take a look at Bobby Hurley, if you want to put a nightcap on all of this, this was a game that was undisciplined. This was a game that was a bunch of people trying to take their shots and see if it was going to happen or not. This was a game with technical fouls, flagrant fouls. And as much as I hate to say it, because I think Bobby Hurley's highs have been awesome, and I really enjoyed his first, couple of 5-6 years here, really up through COVID. Is that not emblematic of the Bobby Hurley experience? Is that not emblematic of what we've been getting out of him for the last, really his entire tenure?
It's a perfect reflection. And as much of the first 3 quarters of the game against Kansas and Texas Tech were the highs of the Bobby Hurley era, where it's teams that don't really have the talent of the other teams, but are still bringing it to the other guys and being like, hey, we're going to take you down. We're going to storm the court. Games like this, where it's a 91-42 loss at a neutral site, are just so humbling. And it humanizes what it's like to be an ASU fan, because now it's just like, okay, it's the final nail in the coffin. If there was any doubt that this team needs to move over with, it's this. Because every single problem that Bobby Hurley's had, the chemistry, not reaching his guys, coaching, culture questions, it came through in this game because their team was outcoached, they were outplayed, and they were undisciplined. And if you lose in all 3 facets of those games, you're not gonna win a basketball game. Not gonna win a basketball game, and you're not gonna establish a culture, and you might lose your job.
Yeah, and before we move on and start talking about the future a little bit, I do want to take a moment to talk about the team as a whole, because this was not last year's team. This was not the number 7 ranked recruited team in the country. Look, Pig Johnson, who was probably the second most impactful player this entire year behind Mo Odum, coming off the bench every single game, having these big games. He was picked off like an Instagram reel by Bobby Hurley's son playing the NIA, and he comes in here, never recruited, has a great year. Same is true of a lot of these players. And that is also, I think, emblematic of the last 9 years. You get these guys that maybe should have gotten a bigger shot than they got, but they go and they take advantage of it and they play well. And I just feel bad for them. Like, yes, Peg Johnson had the flagrant, and that's not great. Frustration's there. There's a technical job. Shouldn't have said whatever he said. Don't know what he said. But these guys come in, and I think they had the talent. I think they had the work ethic to go hang with Iowa State. I think they were just let down. Something was wrong. And yes, 24 hours after playing an emotional game is not easy. But I think they were just let down. So all the credit in the world to these guys. This was a tough season. I thought, on a whole, I think I was pretty impressed with what we were able to put together. But
this is what, to your point, this is one of my favorite ASU teams out there. All the credit to all the guys. I know we kind of give them a hard time, but it comes from a place of passion because we see the how hard these guys work, and we want them to do well. And it's just a shame that their season might come to an end. We don't know with what tournaments they might get invited to later on, but that's a big question mark where their coach will go, how many of them will stay. But as you said, these guys are dogs, and they fight hard, and they were an enjoyable team to watch. But it's a sad note to end on if this is the last game that they played, because there's only 3 times that they've been boat raced, and that was BYU, Houston, and Iowa State. And by boat raced, I mean from beginning to end, there was no shot. Only 3 times this season, and it's a shame that what might be the last game of the year was one of those boat races.
Yeah, but we got to look to the future, and we're going to take a little bit closer look at that future in just a second.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. South Carolina rolled past Ole Miss 85-48 to clinch a share of the SEC regular season title and lock down the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. The Gamecocks extended their win streak over Ole Miss to 21 straight. UCLA dominated Wisconsin 80-60 to secure its first outright Big Ten regular season championship in program history. The Bruins improved to 27-1 overall and remain unbeaten in conference play. And number 12 TCU stormed back from a 13-point fourth quarter deficit to beat Iowa State 80-73. The Horned Frogs now sit alone atop the Big 12 standings and are 1 win away from clinching another regular season conference crown. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more.
What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood Prediction Market changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but I never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now, I can actually take part live in a market powered by the people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S., download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission, merchant, and swap firm. And if you're joining us today and every single day, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. It really means a lot. But also, you should go check out the Everydayer Club through the month of March. Use code MARCH. And you'll get your first month free. And we're also running a bracket competition, men's and women's, for the NCAA tournament, March Madness. If you win, well, first of all, you'll have bested Parker and I and all the other Locked On hosts. But second of all, you'll get about, I think it's about $100 in Locked On merch to get yourself a hat, some shirts, whatever else you want. And of course, you still get access to the big perks. Ad-free listening on all the Locked On shows you want to listen to, access to a members-only Discord where you can talk to Parker and I and everyone else. It's a great time. So make sure to go check it out. That is, of course, lockedonsundevils.supercast.com. And we'll see you there. And if you're listening on YouTube, make sure to go hit the sub button. Like the video. It really does help us out quite a bit. Let us know your thoughts on this Sun Devil season, because there were highs. There were lows. They were in the middles, too slow. Maybe that was just the last game. But anyways, we do have to start to talk about the future now, Parker, because Bobby Hurley, writing is on the wall. There's nothing official just yet. But between the leak that happened 2 days ago and this abysmal Iowa State game, there is, in my mind, zero chance that Bobby Hurley comes back to Arizona State any functional capacity. So Parker, what happens next?
What happens next is a race for Arizona State to find their guy, which we talked about last episode, but also it's a race to maintain your talent, because although you can look at the unsuccessful guys that transferred out, Jaden Quaintance has struggled with injury, and there's a couple other guys, Freeman, who also transferred out last year, a couple of guys who have not had successful stints since leaving the Sun Devils, but you still have some high quality players on your team. Jop is a must keep. Mayusin, you want to hold on to him. Trevor Best is a guy who's really, really young, has tremendous upside. There are a lot of younger guys and players that we also haven't seen, Phil, who will shine on this Arizona State team, but just haven't had a chance to step on the court because of injury. And those are the guys that whoever inherits this roster needs to have.
Yeah, we talked yesterday about how it might be important. It depends on what you're looking for. Depends on what the next head coach's roster wants to look like. But there's reporting that says that Jop's going wherever Nick Irvin goes. So if you want to keep Jop, maybe you got to maintain Nick Irvin. But as you talk about this, there's this race going on, right? Right now, there are like five Power 4 college basketball coaching opportunities available. Right, the Syracuse just got rid of their head coach. There's Boston College, Georgia Tech, Kansas State, and Providence. So of those 5, I got to imagine, and I'm sure there will be more. I'm hearing rumors that it seems like likely that Pittsburgh might be getting rid of theirs, and maybe Cincinnati as well. Arizona State, I think Syracuse is probably the most interesting one, just given the Boeheim history playing in the Carrier Dome. But I got to imagine that ASU would be one of the more attractive spots for the right hire.
It is. I would rank it above Kansas State. Definitely the more attractive job in the Big 12. Not that Kansas State. I think they're very close in market attractability, if that's a word. But just because Kansas State does have the history, but think about the location, West Coast, recruiting pipeline there. You have also the layout for what the arena will look like in a couple of years. So you have investment from the athletic department as well. So I rank it above there. Syracuse and Providence, I think, are 2 that will be above it unless something changes, just because of the history there and the way that those teams take basketball more seriously than ASU. But other than that, I think ASU has an argument to be above the rest of them. And I think ASU could have a chance if, say, there was John Smith, just a nameless top-tier head coaching hire, and he interviewed at Syracuse, Providence, and ASU. I think there's an argument that he could choose ASU overall, both of those gigs, because there is a pitch, because the one thing that ASU sticks out from the rest of them is that ASU is unlike the other Power 4 gigs all out there right now. It's a West Coast top-tier tourism market and has recruited well in the past. You mentioned the number 7 ranked recruiting class a pair of years ago, and a commitment to make the facilities better over the coming years. So it's a big market. It's growing, and I think it'll make whoever becomes the next head coach, pending the Bobby Hurley move, very, very happy.
Yeah, not only that, of course, you have this situation where our NIL program is not as developed as, say, Alabama or one of the other Texas, one of the other big schools. But all credit to Kenny here. We've been doing a better job at activating things. I mean, we saw that anonymous donor that helped with the football facility. And yes, a lot of that is football NIL, but when you activate a fan base, it's going to flow a little bit. Obviously not everything, but I think you can make an argument to say, hey, the way our athletic department is meeting this new era is pretty good. And we are up and coming, and we are doing a really good job developing the resources. If you understand the way that everything works in the coming future, if you understand this new NIL world, we're in a great spot to be a very good program going forward. So that's the hope. Find someone who knows that get them together. Of course, we don't know what this search is gonna look like just yet. Graham Rossini still has to meet with Bobby Hurley. I'm assuming that's probably gonna happen today if you're listening to this podcast, like today or tomorrow. So tomorrow or Friday for us, as we're recording this on Wednesday. So we're gonna have to see what happens. I am looking forward to see what the rumors as they start to spill, who we're gonna get, what it means for the future of ASU basketball. But for right now, Bobby Hurley is almost assumedly gone. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Bobby. Like I love your highs. I hated your lows. Let's hope someone can put a system in and stop getting technical out of games. That's all I want. But now for a little bit of a palate cleanser. We talked about basketball. It's very depressing. Spring practices start this weekend, and no position is as interesting to me right now as the tight end room, because we had a great guy just go off to the draft. So we're going to talk about what exactly his replacement might be in just a second.
Coast Pay is giving you Locked On College listeners up to 2,000 credit for your business when you get started today. If you manage a crew, construction, HVAC, landscaping, any operation that with trucks on the road, you already know how messy gas and materials spending can get. Cards get shared, receipts disappear, and month-end turns into a headache. Coast Pay fixes all of that. Coast Pay is the modern fuel card and expense management tool built specifically for fleets, fuel, maintenance, materials, all on one card, with real control and instant visibility. Every transaction shows up the moment it happens. No surprises if someone fuels up at an odd time or tries to buy something outside their limit. You'll know instantly. Even better, it works anywhere Visa is accepted, so you don't need to worry about making trips out to fill up. It's built for operations who don't have time to chase paperwork, and unlike old fuel cards, there's no contracts or commitments, just smarter expense control. Right now, Coast Pay is offering up to $2,000 in credit when you get started at coastpay.com/lockedoncollege. Go to coastpay.com/lockedoncredit to see how you can earn up to $2,000 in credit. Terms apply. The Coast Visa commercial credit is issued by Celtic Bank. All card accounts are subject to credit approval. And this episode is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. With 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy, there's something for everyone. The board is set and the flavors are ready, and with the number one pick in the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft, I'm selecting Strawberry Banana. It stood out from the field. It has a smooth, creamy flavor profile that reminds me of smoothies growing up. All that with zero sugar energy that you love from 5 Hour Energy. Find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon.
All right, football. We get to talk about that a little bit. Big 12 tournament's over. Let's ease the depression a little bit and talk about the tight end room, because he didn't get the credit I think he deserved when you would hear his name last year, but Metayer was a man. He was so impactful, downfield blocking. He had some really big catches later on in the year. And now we're in this situation, Parker, where Metayer's great. He's gone off to the draft. We got a couple promising prospects, and I know you got a name. We'll talk about that in just a second, but all eyes right now, they're on Kamari Anderson.
Yeah, we'll get to the big name that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But Kamari Anderson, I mean, the three-headed monster in the tight end room last year was Metayer, Harpel, and Anderson. And all three of them were workhorse guys, where most of the time, when they caught the ball, they were ruthless on the field. But most of the time when they were ruthless on the field, it was for lowering the shoulders and getting some blocks, and not just some blocks, some big-time impact blocks on that line, setting the edge, going downfield on screens. Anderson, Harpel, and Metayer did it. And Anderson, he's now going to be a senior, worked his way through, and I think he's going to be one of the leaders for this squad. It's an interesting tight end room. I love talking about this room because there are not a lot of impact transfers. We highlighted the impact transfers in the running back room. the quarterback room, the wide receiving room, but in this tight end room, it's going to be the returners that are really going to set a tone this year, Phil.
That's always going to be, well, I said that can always be the case. Not necessarily true in this NIL era, but in this era and with the culture that not Bobby Hurley, enough with him, with Dillingham that he's building, that is good news, right? To see players come in year over year to build into the program, which is not something that we see in all the programs in college football. Like, let's be clear here. There are so many teams that come in, they look great, and you spend $20 million in this new roster that comes in next year because you want to rebuild. So that is true. My worry is that Anderson in particular didn't really play nearly as much snaps last year. He had 5 receptions total, which in fairness, Metayer was a dog. Metayer was eating the majority of the snaps. He was the guy. But I would like to see someone coming in that was already showing more promise last year. Maybe. I don't know if that's your guy, Parker, but this is your opportunity. Sell me on someone else.
Okay. AJ Ia. You're going to hear it first. Maybe we'll pin this to be like a prediction or something. He's going to be the bell cow for this Arizona State offense next year. 6'6", 260-pound sophomore from Santa Ana, California. He has been turning heads at practices for what he's been able to do. I went to fall practices, haven't had a chance to see him in spring action, but he is just a freak athlete who is going to move his way up draft boards when he's eligible. But right now, he is going to move his way up the depth chart, and would not be surprised at all if come fall he's the one starting and Kamari Anderson is more known for being in the 2 tight end packages, and AJ is the one going out and making insane receptions out in the field, as well as lowering the boom with his blocks, because that's just how physical Ia can be.
I mean, it's always kind of been a question, I think, with ASU teams when we play the big-bodied SEC teams. Like, does ASU have enough beef? Do we have enough pounds on our frames and muscle on our frames to get in the trenches with Texas? That was the question in the Peach Bowl 2 years ago. The answer was a resounding yes, but it was not because we were winning we were winning at the line of scrimmage. We were winning from scheming. We were winning from Scadaboo on his flu game, accounting for 1,000 all-purpose yards, or close enough. That's what it felt. I think it was like 700. But anyway, seeing a guy this big with this level of athleticism coming in, I saw some footage from the spring workouts, not the spring practices, not quite happening just yet, but doing a really nice job on the athleticism drills going around. I'll buy it. I'm not convinced. He is just a sophomore. He's still got room to grow. He's still got room to fill out that frame. Even if you are 260 pounds, a year more of weightlifting as you're going for those blocks it accounts for a lot. But we'll pin it, Parker, and I will be the first to text you, say, hey, your guy's doing great when the football season starts.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him. I'm also rooting for Kamari Anderson. I don't want to make it seem like I'm saying, oh, I only want this guy to do well. I think they're both going to have great seasons next year. The tight end room, if you're not familiar with Kenny Dillingham and Marcus Arroyo football, they use their tight ends. Now, a lot of the time it's for blocking because they love to get the work done on the ground, but the tight end screen, it's sneaky, but it always finds its way into the Kenny Dillingham playbook. And something tells me the Sun Devils will be using it quite a lot. But to get to your point on matching SEC physicality, when you played Texas A&M week 2, the Mississippi State game and the Texas game a year ago and then 2 years ago, both times it seemed like Arizona State, for some reason, and this is rare when you play SEC teams, they got more settled physically in the second half. The first half was Texas had that big lead on ASU, and they never physically set the tone. And kind of, as you said, they weren't known for meeting the physicality of Texas, but they looked better than they did in the first half and the second half. And against Mississippi State, the Bulldogs were running all over them. And then the second half, the line of scrimmage was established, and ASU matched up far better to an SEC trench. So going into this game against Texas and determining how this roster is going to look to start off this year, physicality is going to be a massive part, especially when you play an SEC powerhouse like Texas A&M in week 2.
Yeah, Yeah. I mean, how nice is it that we can start talking about a program that makes second half adjustments and look as good while doing so? Hey, look, this has been primarily a basketball episode. We've been talking about basketball a little bit, and it is so nice to talk about, again, a coach that goes and makes adjustments in the locker room at halftime, and it's really, really evident, and you start to see the improvement. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see a 6'6", 260 frame shoving some people down, especially in the week 1 of the season, right before we go play Texas A&M and see what EA can do. But speaking about Arroyo and talking about the ASU offense, ASU has always had really good running backs. As long as I've been following ASU. So tomorrow we're going to take a look at the running back room and what exactly they have in store for us, because we got, as we talked about the tight end room, got some very exciting names in the running back room as well. But that's it for here today. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, if you join us today and every single day, make sure to go check out the Everyday Air Club, lockedonsundevils.supercast.com. And if you use promo code March, you get the first month free. So you get to see if you like it or not. Get the ad-free shows, join the Discord, join us if you get signed up before March Madness starts to go in the bracket challenge. It's a good time. You're probably going to beat me. Maybe not beat Parker. I don't know. But thank you so much for joining us. If you're watching here on YouTube, we're going to shoot you over to the first ever 24/7 Locked On podcast show, so you can make sure what's happening around the world of sports. And if you're listening to this on podcast form, on audio, make sure your second listen is Locked On College Basketball, because March Madness is upon us, and there's a whole lot to pay attention to. We'll see you tomorrow.